Fate Stay Night is known for a lot of things. It's known for having what seems like a billion anime. It's known for its gacha game from hell. It's known for being that franchise that turned some of your favorite historical figures into cute anime girls, but I digress. The original Fate Stay Night visual novel that the countless other anime games and light novels have stemmed from is massive, but how massive is, well, massive? Is it really as long as people say it is? And for that matter, what would take longer, reading the visual novel or watching the plethora of Fate anime out there? Let's go ahead and find out. In Japanese, its original language, Stay Night has an estimated 3,950 kilobytes of characters, which equates to about 95,000 lines of text. But that probably doesn't mean much of anything to you, right? I mean, this video's in English, there's a pretty strong chance you're an English speaker, so let's go ahead and talk about Stay Night's English fan translation since there's no official one. Some knowledgeable Redditors once calculated that there are 820,595 words in the fan translation, presumably the one by Mirror Moon, of Fate Stay Night. But just to put into perspective just how long this is, let's take a look at one of the main characters, good old Saber, or, if you prefer, good old King Arthur. There's a myriad of written epics about King Arthur, but one of the most well-known among them is Le Mort d'Arthur, or, well, The Death of Arthur, which was written by Sir Thomas Malory in the late 1460s, but wouldn't be published until 1485. Spoiler alert, it's the one where King Arthur dies. I'm sorry, was spoiling it over 500 years later too soon? So I'm really big on late medieval English history, so I won't go into detail regarding the various edits and translations The Death of Arthur has undergone in its long life. But what I will tell you is that the Winchester manuscript version of The Death of Arthur is the earliest version we have and even predates the 1485 edition, so we're gonna use its word count of 190,320 words. So this effectively means that you could read about the death of King Arthur almost 4.5 times before you'd reach the length of Fate Stay Night. As a matter of fact, you could read the death of Arthur, Gilgamesh, and, Lancer. Oh god, I have never been able to pronounce his real name correctly, and I don't want to sit here and butcher it really bad in front of an audience. I'm sorry, but it doesn't even matter because you still wouldn't even be halfway through the word count of Stay Night. But you know, Arthurian legend isn't everyone's cup of tea, I get it, so let's compare Stay Night's word count to another figure that's dominated British writing, though not quite in the same way as King Arthur. Let's talk about Shakespeare. Shakespeare's first folio contains the vast majority of his body of work and would have been the largest compendium of it around his time, even though it wouldn't be published till after he died. And the first folio has a whopping 884,421 words. So that's about 64,000 words more than the length of Stay Night. That might sound kinda close, and I mean, to be fair, it's at least in the same ballpark, but 64,000 words is a bit longer than reading Hamlet twice. But hey, that said, if you wanted to remove the equivalent of, we'll say 3 of his plays, since most of them tend to be in the 20,000-ish word range, then yeah, Shakespeare's first folio is a good comparison to the length of Fate Stay Night. But despite all this, you still might be saying that a word count doesn't mean as much to you as, say, a length measured in hours. What's the average playtime for Fate Stay Night? It's wordy, sure, but how long is getting through all of this text really gonna take? Well, according to the old HLTB, it's about 60 hours on average, or 100 if you want to get through all the routes, which, by the way, is the right way to play a visual novel, so we're gonna be working more closely with the full 100-hour time. God, it is a full 100 hours. Is this finally starting to sound kinda daunting, by the way? Believe it or not, I wouldn't even say that Stay Night's length is the most daunting aspect of the Fate franchise, though. As a matter of fact, I'd say it's the anime just because there's so many of them. For new fans wanting to get into the series through the anime, it can sometimes be a tricky task finding the best starting point, but since we're here talking about the Stay Night visual novel, we may as well talk a little bit about the Stay Night anime. The original Fate Stay Night anime aired in 2006. At 20 minutes per episode and 25 episodes, it would take you 8 hours and 20 minutes to watch the entirety of Fate Stay Night. Only a hair far over 10% of your first route in the visual novel, and not even 10% if you plan on going through everything. But of course, there's way more Fate anime out there than Stay Night. As a matter of fact, Unlimited Blade Works is widely considered to be the better adaptation of the Stay Night visual novel. So there are 2 seasons of Blade Works. Season 1 has 12 episodes that are closer to half an hour each, while Season 2 has 13 episodes at 20 minutes. So Blade Works would effectively take approximately 10 hours and 20 minutes to watch. That's more than the first Stay Night anime, but still pales in comparison to the length of the visual novel. But like I mentioned earlier, Blade Works and Stay Night are very, very, very far from being the only Fate anime out there, so let's try this. Fate Stay Night and Unlimited Blade Works would take you a combined 18 hours and 40 minutes to watch, so that's almost a fifth of the time it would take you to do a full playthrough of the Stay Night visual novel. Now let's just, I don't know, add the times from the rest of the Fate anime. That's right. The movies, the OVAs, the specials, Prismelia, everything. Let's just add that all in. Many numbers later, I've calculated that the combined time of the rest of the Fate anime out there is a staggering, get ready for this, 51 hours and 30 seconds, plus our 18 hours and 40 minutes from earlier, we get a total of 69 hours, 40 minutes, and 30 seconds of non-stop Fate anime. That's basically 3 days of nothing but Fate. All that, and you're not even 3/4 of the way through the Stay Night visual novel. Absolutely incredible. But now you might be wondering where all the other Fate games stand in all this. Well, setting aside the fighting games in grand order, since they don't really have an average playtime, we're left with Fate's Hollow Ataraxia, Extra, Extra Triple C, Prisma Ilia, Extella, and Extella Link. Hollow is the only other visual novel in the group, so we'll add its completion time plus the average times of the others, and we arrive at a total of 208 hours and 5 minutes. So Stay Night would be the equivalent of about half of the length of all the other Fate games combined. Combining the 97 hours it would take you to get through Stay Night, the 69 hours, 40 minutes, and 30 seconds to watch all the anime, and the 208 hours and 5 minutes to play the rest of the games, that means it would take you a total of 374 hours, 45 minutes, and 30 seconds to get through most of the Fate franchise. This accounts for everything but the light novels and the manga, which are quite a bit harder to calculate average times for, since I couldn't find word counts for the light novels, and manga reading speeds tend to be a lot more varied. But anyways, that's the majority of the Fate franchise. What can a person do with about 375 hours? I mean, God, what couldn't you do? That's more than 2 weeks! You could watch the entirety of One Piece in its current state and still have plenty of time to spare. As a matter of fact, according to Google Maps, you could finish a walk from Boston to Atlanta, 2 cities that are well over 1,000 miles apart, and still have time to spare. Actually, how's this? Prepare to have your mind blown. The average passenger flight moves at a speed of between 547 and 575 miles an hour. So let's say that this one's moving a little slow, just for the sake of simplifying the math. Let's say this one is moving at 500 miles an hour. At that speed, it would take you about 50 hours to circle the globe. So if you had infinite fuel, this means that you could fly around the globe 7 entire times and still have a few hours left at your disposal before reaching Fate's length. Or rather, most of Fate's length. Because remember, we didn't include the light novels or the manga in any of this. Yeah, if your jaw hadn't already dropped when I told you just how long Fate was, it should be dropping about now. Suffice to say, Fate's a long franchise, and in a franchise that's known for having a large volume of entries, Stay Night is still by far the longest. In fact, let's close this off with one last bit of math. For the sake of simplifying things, we'll keep rounding up slightly and say there's 375 hours worth of the Fate franchise without the manga and light novels. Now, we're just gonna combine all the Fate media that's based off of, or is, the Stay Night visual novel. We have a total of 122 hours and 22 minutes. In other words, Stay Night accounts for a total of almost 33% of the Fate franchise, which is basically a third. An entire third of Fate is nothing but Stay Night. That's pretty cool. Saber Arturia is the best saber, and that's just a fact.